Experiments and discoveries are happening around the world every day. Some good, some bad. Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Emily and today we are cutting down our list of the top 10 dark Antarctic experiments the government is trying to hide from you. Coming in at number 10 is Parallel Universe. A group of NASA scientists working on an experiment in Antarctica have detected evidence of a parallel universe where the rules of physics are opposite of our own, according to a report. A cosmic ray detection experiment has found particles that could be from a parallel realm that was also born in the Big Bang. Now, the expert used a giant balloon to carry NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA, high above Antarctica, where the frigid dry air provided the perfect environment with little to no radio noise to distort its findings. Now, a constant wind of high energy particles constantly arrives on Earth from outer space. That means the high energy particles can only be detected coming down from space, but the team's ANITA detected heavier particles, so-called tau neutrinos, which come up out of the Earth. Now, the finding implies that these particles are actually traveling backward in time, suggesting evidence of a parallel universe. The simplest explanation for the phenomenon is that at the moment of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, two universes were formed, ours and the one that from our perspective is running in reverse with time going backwards. We're left with the most exciting or most boring possibilities, said Ibrahim Safa, who worked on the experiment. Number 9. Million-year-old DNA. In the fall 2022, scientists announced that they uncovered million-year-old DNA just north of the continent of Antarctica. Yeah, a million years old. Now, scientists actually accidentally collected the unusual genetic samples up to 584 feet beneath the seafloor as part of a 2019 survey led by the International Ocean Discovery Program in the Scotia Sea north of mainland Antarctica. The ancient sediment that was discovered is now the oldest marine DNA found from seafloor sediments. The team looked closely at damage patterns within the recovered DNA fragments to establish exactly how old they were. Now, the oldest fragments clocked in at around 1 million years old. Now, until now, the oldest CETA DNA, which was found locked inside Arctic permafrost, dated to around 650,000 years ago. Now, this DNA will be analyzed and studied by scientists, as it will tell us a lot about the polar marine ecosystem, as well as how climate change may affect Antarctica. Number 8. Earthquake swarms. A series of earthquakes was recently discovered all the way in Antarctica, the southernmost continent. Now, scientists discovered earthquake swarms occurred along the Shetland Plate and the Antarctic Plate. Now, the swarms lasted from August 2020 all the way through February 2021. Within that time, around 85,000 earthquakes occurred, which is insane and low-key scary. Scientists believe this series of earthquake storms were caused by the eruption of a dormant volcano. Now, the swarm occurred around the Orca Seamount, an inactive volcano that rises 2,950 feet from the seafloor in the Bransfield Strait. Now, the two largest earthquakes in the series were a magnitude of 5.9 quake in October 2020 and a magnitude 6.0 quake in November. Number 7. Colossal Squid Expedition. An international expedition of scientists conducted a colossal squid exploration in December 2022 and were able to grab videos and photos of some of the rare species swimming far beneath the surface. Now, this type of squid is the largest invertebrate in the world, and this expedition could reveal important information about the behaviors and habits of the colossal squids, as well as information on animal life in Antarctica in general. Now, this species was first discovered in 1925, so the goal of the scientists was to capture footage of this majestic creature before the 100-year anniversary of its discovery. Now, while this discovery in Antarctica is still underway, there is much more we can learn about these creatures. Number 6. Meteorite. In January this year, on an excursion to the icy plains of Antarctica, an international team of researchers discovered 5 new meteorites, including one of the largest ever found on the continent. Now, the rare meteorite is about the size of a cantaloupe, but weighs a hefty 17 pounds. The specimen is one of only about 100 that size or larger discovered in Antarctica, a prime meteorite hunting location where more than 45,000 space rocks have been tracked down. Now, the exceptional find is heading to the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels, where it can be studied. Maria Valdez, a research scientist at Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History and the University of Chicago, who is part of the expedition team, has kept some of the material for her own analysis. She'll take her samples and use strong acids to dissolve them before a process called calibrated chemistry to isolate various elements that make up the rock. Then I can start to think about the origin of this rock, how it evolved over time, what kind of parent body it came from, and where in the solar system the parent body formed, she said. These are the kind of big questions that we try to address. Number 5. Strange creatures. In 2021, geologist James Smith of the British Antarctic Survey drilled through an Antarctic ice shelf to sample sediment which was locked under half a mile of ice. To get to it, James and his colleagues had to melt 20 tons of snow to create 20,000 liters of hot water, which they then pumped through a pipe lowered down a borehole. Next, they lowered an instrument to collect the sediment along with a GoPro camera. Later that night in his tent, James watched the footage and he found a rock 4,600 feet under the surface. Now, it was the wrong place for collecting seafloor muck, but the absolute right place for a 1 in a million shot of finding life in an environment that scientists didn't think could support that much of it. A layer of bacteria known as microbial mat was on the rock. An alien-like sponge and other stalked animals dangled from the rock, while stoder cylindrical sponges hugged at the surface. The rock was also lined with wispy filaments, perhaps a component of the bacterial mats, or perhaps a particular animal known as a hydroid. Now, whatever the case, this was an extraordinary find that they will be continuing to study. Number 4. Deepest point mapped. A new map of the Southern Ocean gave scientists their most detailed view to date of the seafloor surrounding Antarctica, including its deepest point, the Factorian Deep. Resting at a depth of around 24,400 feet below sea surface, or 17 Empire State Buildings stacked top to bottom, the Factorian Deep was only discovered in 2019. But until now, researchers had no idea how it fit together with the surrounding seafloor. The new map draws from more than 1,200 sonar data sets collected mostly by science vessels and covers more than 18.5 million square miles of the sea floor. Researchers hope to use the sea bottom chart to identify underwater mountains or seamounts that might be hotspots for marine life. Number 3. Blood Falls. In the McMurdo Dry Valley, a bright crimson 5-story waterfall pours out of Taylor Glacier into Lake Bonny. It looks like a gush of blood from a wound in the ice, but scientists have recently discovered the cause behind this mysterious phenomenon. The water that feeds Blood Falls was once a salty lake that is now cut off from the atmosphere due to the formation of glaciers on top of the lake. Now, the water is preserved 400 meters underground and has become even saltier over time. It's now 3 times saltier than seawater and cannot freeze. The salt water is also extremely rich in iron and completely devoid of oxygen and sunlight. As the iron-rich water seeps through a fissure in the glacier and comes to contact with the air, the iron oxidizes and rusts, staining the water a dark red color. Now, just looking at this freaks me out, but I'm glad scientists were able to discover the reason behind it. Number 2. Singing ice. It appears that a massive slab of ice in Antarctica is singing. The Ross Ice Shelf is the largest ice shelf in Antarctica. It's several hundred meters thick and covers an area of over 500,000 square kilometers, around the size of France. Scientists have recently discovered that the Ross Ice Shelf sings an eerie melody caused by the winds blowing across the snow dunes. The winds create surface vibrations and almost non-stop seismic tones. Now, the vibrations aren't audible to human ears, and scientists use seismic sensors to hear the tune. Now, the song was actually discovered by accident after seismic sensors were installed on the ice shelf to observe other behaviors. Now, scientists have since discovered that the song changes in response to the environment, such as melting or storms shifting the snow. They're now using the song as a tool to monitor the ice shelf in real time, tracking its stability and vulnerability for collapse through the seismic humming. And coming in number 1 is secret lakes. It's difficult to imagine anything beneath the thick layers of ice in Antarctica, yet scientists have discovered a number of underground lakes. First uncovered in 1970 with radars, there are estimated to be around 400 lakes sitting under 3 kilometers of ice. Scientists believe the lakes were formed after the separation of Antarctica from Gondwanaland, the ancient supercontinent. Lake Vostok, discovered in the 1990s by Russian scientists, is the largest subglacial lake in Antarctica. In 2014, scientists had a major breakthrough at Lake Wally, Collins, discovering a diverse and active ecosystem of microorganisms in the lake, nearly a kilometer under an ice sheet. Then in 2022, researchers discovered a city-sized lake hidden deep underneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. The hidden lake, which was named Lake Snow Eagle, has a surface area of 143 square miles and lies in a mile-deep canyon beneath 2 miles of ice. The team uncovered the lake following 3 years of exhaustive aerial surveys over the ice sheet, using radar and special sensors designed to measure minuscule changes in Earth's gravity. Now, experts believe it could contain 34-million-year-old river sediments that are older than the ice sheet itself, and could shed light on what Antarctica was like before the continent froze. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 dark Antarctic experiments the government is trying to hide from you. Which one on our list shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.